The guys over here, and bringing you, well, not GP in 60 seconds, because it's completely impossible for me to do that, because this race was absolutely crazy. The Hungarian Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Absolute madness. Crazy Grand Prix, and that's why it's not going to be GP in 60 seconds. I'm just going to do a little review, but I'm going to try and keep it as short and sweet as possible, and apologies straight off the bat before I get into the review if I miss anything. There was just absolutely too much for me to remember, but I'll go through the main parts. So, yeah, the race started off in very wet conditions, intermediate tyres. They all got off the line. Rosberg on pole, Hamilton, Magnussen in the pit lane. Rosberg was actually flying. He got a really good gap to everyone, and then there was a safety car about halfway through on, what was it, lap 13-ish, I think. I can't exactly remember. But, yeah, there was a safety car, essentially. And then the top four, which was Rosberg, Bottas, Vettel, and Alonso. At the start of the race, Alonso got up to, I think it was, what was it? It was 4th place, wasn't it? Or it was even more. No, yeah, Bottas got up to 2nd, Vettel down to 3rd, Alonso in 4th into the first corner. Essentially, Ricciardo was struggling into the first corner. Alonso was able to get the jump on him. On the first lap, Lewis Hamilton also spun his car. His brakes was very cold, so he crashed, well, not crashed, just tapped the barrier on turn 2, which was a bit crazy. So he was last at one point on lap 1 at the race start. And then there was a safety car eventually. The top four, Rosberg, Bottas, Vettel, and Alonso, stayed out for one more lap, because they had already passed the pits when the safety car came out. Everyone else reacted, came to the pits. Both McLarens went onto the intermediates, whereas everyone else went onto the slick. So we had Jenson Button leading the pack under the safety car on intermediate tyres. No, sorry, Ricciardo was leading the pack. My apologies. Ricciardo was leading the pack. Button was 2nd on the intermediates under the safety car. Safety car came in. Ricciardo was nailed by Button down into the first corner, but that was very short-lived, because obviously the rain, McLaren were expecting rain to come, never did, so McLaren's pit and their race was pretty shot, and Button came home in 10th at the end. So that's pretty much the end of McLaren's story in the race. So getting back onto all the main contenders, we had Ricciardo leading the race. Eventually we had Alonso getting into 2nd place. We had Rosberg struggling, and he actually got overtaken by Jean-Eric Vergne, and he was ahead of Vettel, and eventually Hamilton was overtaking so many people, got the strategy right, and he was behind Vettel going into the main part of the race, and that was a big battle between them. It was Vergne, Rosberg, Vettel, and Hamilton behind Alonso and Ricciardo, who was up front. So that was kind of the main fight for pretty much the second half of the race. And it was pretty damn crazy, because we saw, essentially, Vettel spun on the pit straight, so that took him out of the race. He spun on the pit straight, managed to catch the car, but he only came home in 7th place at the end of the race, so he was out. We saw both Force Indias go out of the race. Perez doing the same thing as Vettel, but Perez wasn't as lucky, and he slammed straight into the pit straight. Very lucky he was okay. It was a hard hit. Hulkenberg went out because he lost the rear tyres in the front into the last corner, hit his teammate actually a tiny bit, and was out of the race. We saw Grosjean crash on a safety car. He crashed in the safety car period. We saw a number of retirements from a few cars. But, you know, yeah, getting back to the actual fight, which was Alonso and Ricciardo up front, they were seemingly having a gap, but they had all, well, we thought both of them were going to make one more pit stop. We had Vergne and Alonso, sorry, Alonso, what am I saying? Vergne and Rosberg and Vettel at that point, and Hamilton. And so Hamilton just couldn't get past Vettel for some reason. Vettel just had the grip in the corners, but then as I said, Vettel spun out. Then it was Hamilton and Rosberg, and then after the pit stops, Hamilton was ahead of Rosberg, and Rosberg was on the soft tyres, Hamilton on the medium tyres. And the thing that was really quite awkward was Rosberg coming up behind Hamilton, but Rosberg couldn't close in on him. He was always just 1.2 seconds behind Hamilton, and Rosberg was asking for Hamilton to maybe let him through. Hamilton said, "I'll let him through if he gets up to me," and Rosberg just didn't have the pace to get up to him in the dirty air. So Hamilton, kept Rosberg behind. Rosberg had to pit then, and he went to another set of soft tyres, and he was down to what was about, I think it was 7th place at the time, I think it was, and he had to overtake both Williams cars and Raikkonen to get back to 4th place at least. Meanwhile, Hamilton stayed out on the medium tyres and was going to the end. I believe he went about at least 25 laps or something like that. Alonso went 30 laps on soft tyres. He didn't pit again. We all thought he would pit again. Ricciardo was the only one that pit again. He went to a fresh set of soft tyres. He was 3rd place, catching Hamilton and Alonso. And by the end of it, the last 10 laps, we had Ricciardo, Alonso and Hamilton all covered by about like a second at one point. We had Alonso leading the race on really worn super soft tyres. Sorry, not super soft tyres. Hamilton on some pretty okay but wornish, a bit medium tyres, and Ricciardo on fresh softs. Rosberg coming through on used softs, but they were pretty fresh. And then we had some amazing racing. We had Ricciardo taking Hamilton basically into turn 2. He did a little switch back and just had a lot more grip around the outside to get round. Hamilton lost the rear a tiny bit, and so Ricciardo went right around the outside on turn 2. Then he made a beautiful lunging move into turn 1 on Alonso. Crazy stuff. He came from a really far back. I actually thought he was going to outbrake himself, but he really mastered that braking zone right at the moment when he overtook Alonso for the race lead. Then Alonso managed to keep 2nd place. He came in 2nd place on about 30 lap old soft tyres, so hats off to Fernando Alonso. And then also Hamilton, even though he couldn't overtake Alonso, Hamilton said it wasn't his best drive of his career on the podium. Probably wasn't actually his best drive. His best drive probably would have come if he did overtake Alonso and managed to also keep Ricciardo behind. But nonetheless, it was still a great drive. Pit lane to podium. The exact same thing Sebastian Vettel did in 2012, and it was along the same lines, really. I mean, both, when Vettel did it in 2012, he got some luck with some safety cars, and again, Hamilton got a bit of luck here with some safety cars, and also the wet conditions played into his hands a tiny bit, but in the end of the day, he did a great job to come home for 3rd place on the medium tyres. Well, hats off to him for not letting Rosberg through, because that would have been crucial. If Hamilton did let Rosberg through, because Rosberg was on a different strategy, Rosberg would have finished in 3rd. So hats off to Lewis for just kind of saying no to the team. Or he didn't really say no. He said if he catches up to me within a second, he can do that. But Rosberg didn't, seemingly. But yeah, crazy drive. I mean, obviously, Ricciardo got some luck along the way, but his strategy was really solid to go on the new soft tyres, and he didn't make any mistakes throughout the whole race. He was just going along, really solid, consistent driving to get that 1st place. But yeah, what a race. We had some crazy action. Obviously, my review's never going to do justice to it, so do go check out our highlights if you can online or something. I'm sure there'll be some sort of illegal stream somewhere or something like that showing highlights, because it was a crazy race. The first 26 laps especially was a bit madness, because everyone was tiptoeing on the slick tyres in the damp conditions, and then that last half of the race was crazy with Hamilton and Rosberg squabbling. We saw Vettel spinning, obviously, 2 Force Indias out. And then Ricciardo obviously making a great drive on Hamilton and Alonso. 2 great overtakes. And Ricciardo taking his 2nd win of the season. And I really think there's no doubt he's going to be a future world champion, Daniel Ricciardo. If that Red Bull car is any good next year with a better engine, then I'm pretty sure Ricciardo will be in the hunt for the championship if that Red Bull is on level terms with the Mercedes next year. Ricciardo, great job there. Alonso, stunner of job as well. And Hamilton, amazing job as well to get pit lane to podium. But yeah, the top 3 all did amazing jobs by their standards, because, the top 3 at the beginning on the grid was Rosberg, Vettel and Bottas. And Rosberg came 4th, Bottas 8th and Vettel 7th. So the top 3 that finished the race, really great job. So tell me what you guys thought of the race. Really crazy one. Comment below on what you thought of the race. What were your favourite moves? Who was your driver of the day? And just generally tell me your opinions. If you did enjoy this review, then give it a like. This is usually meant to be GP in 60 seconds, but there's no way I was going to do it any justice, and I thought I'd rather not fail that challenge yet again. So yeah, that has been the review of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Crazy stuff. Apologies, I probably haven't done it any justice at all. Do go check out a highlights reel, but I've tried my best. Crazy stuff, and I'm just so happy for Daniel Ricciardo. Just amazing stuff. The guy keeps on smiling, keeps on bringing up the goods, and he's there to take the wins when he can. And just great job, great consistency, and I'm really also impressed by Alonso to take 30 laps on the soft tyres. That's just crazy stuff. They're only meant to last about at least 18 to 20 laps at least. and Alonso somehow managed to do that. He wrestled that car to second place. But yeah, that's been the Hungarian Grand Prix review. Hope you guys enjoy that. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I've been aarava, and I'll see you guys next time, and goodbye.